have 5 minutes to come out or we will have to take action.
Oh,
You have 5 minutes to come out or we will have to take action.
Oh,
You have 5 minutes to come out or we will have to take action. You have 5 minutes to come out or we will have to take action. You have 5 minutes to come out or we will have to take action. You have 5 minutes to come out. We will have to take action. You have 5 minutes to come out. We will have to take action. You have 5 minutes to come out. We will have to take action. You have 5 minutes to come out. We will have to take action.
A little present to myself. And nuts all around. Come out to the workshop. We'll get together, have a few laughs. Oh. This Polar Express is going to Moneyland. The money train. Oh, if Rudolph wasn't so drunk, he'd love this. It's not nap time. NAP, N-A-P, stands for Not a Possibility. Come on, jingle my bells. No naughty escapes me. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Well, now I'm feeling festive.
Go on. See what happens.
Feel the power of Christmas.
Driver picks the music, shotgun shuts his cake hole.
If your Prius got squashed by a semi-truck and the driver just laughed, he didn't give a flip, buddy, you better man up with Man-O-Rama. If you just can't seem to find a chick into who you can put your devotion, son, you should man up with Man-O-Rama. Come hear what you should have learned when you was a lad. If only you'd not had that sorry excuse for a gender non-specific parental figure. If the guys from work want to grab a beer, but you decline cause you're just too queasy, man, you need to man up. Come on, suck it up, buttercup. Oh, buddy, you just better man up with Man-O-Rama.
All right, that was about 5 minutes. Okay, boys, line them up.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Man-O-Rama. Tonight I am currently with Rantcore Steve, as well as Jeff, also known as... Oh shoot, let me bring it up for you, Jeff. You've got to believe Stoner Brewing Co. on Twitter, and at Rantcore Steve for Twitter as well. Gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. How are you doing?
I am doing good, and we are brought, and Gringo Bandino is in also, and it is good. Welcome to episode 6 of the Man-O-Rama.
Yes, I see he just showed up as well. Welcome back, Talcum.
Yes. And it is good to be here on a Thursday, not watching NFL. I have my little sidekick, Bobble Rambo, as I like to call him. Episode 6 of Man Up. Yeah, Man Up. On today's episode, we're going to talk about a little bit of Christmas stuff, traditions, and we're going to open that floor up. Also, our Christmas movie of the week. I'll pick my Christmas movie, and that would be Die Hard. It is my all-time favorite movie. There is no other Christmas movie that outdoes Die Hard. It's action, it's romance. It is a Christmas movie. It is a holiday special. I always watch that on Christmas Eve, right before we do stockings and all that fun stuff. Jeff, what about you?
I'm going to go a little out of left field on this one, and that is I'm going to pick Funny Farm tonight. And
Ooh.
I never used to really think this as a Christmas movie until I moved to New England. And there are so many truths through comedy in that movie. And the winter scene, the Christmas scene, it does look like that in some small towns. It just reminds me how beautiful it is. And well, I find it funny too, so that helps.
Awesome. That's a good movie. I haven't seen that in a while. Brandon, if you are in, you can give out your Christmas movie. I almost said Christmas music. Wow, Christmas movie. If he's there.
A Christmas Story is my go-to.
Ooh.
I'm a big fan of Die Hard as well, but I don't want to pick the same as you, so I just go with A Christmas Story. It's just hilarious. I've watched it probably every year since I was a kid.
Nice. Have you seen the sequel? The one that just came out probably
No, but I think you, maybe Andy and Gary all and one other person highly recommended it, said it was good. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll give it a shot because I figured it was crap like every other reboot in the last decade.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna see it this week, or probably this weekend actually. But I heard it's good. It's a good tie up to all of it.
I have a lot of shows I'm trying to catch up on.
Oh yeah,
discussions with you, like the Taylor Sheridan shows.
Oh man,
on Paramount. And then now they have another one coming out this Sunday. I think it's 1923 or whatever it's called.
Yeah, there's that one, and then Mayor of Kingstown, I think it is, or
that's the one with Jeremy Renner.
Yeah, I heard that's good. I haven't been able to watch that.
I haven't seen that either.
Let's talk about. I know there's probably Andy might show up, and then Fed for Hire is gonna probably pop in a little later. But let's go into traditions of like leading up to Christmas. And for me, it's I always do in my house with my wife and I and our dog. I always do Die Hard right before during the stockings in our little Christmas before we go see family, and we just put Die Hard on, put it on low, and then just do stockings. And just we always did like the youngest goes first of opening Christmas gifts to older, and then just go around in a circle, take our time, and have a big old Christmas dinner. So hopefully I don't cook on Christmas Day because I did that for Thanksgiving. I'm good. What are you guys' traditions?
Oh, hot chocolate, cookies, one present, Christmas Eve, usually Christmas Story. Although this year I'm going to be playing Christmas Story and then the sequel after it, So that'll be a fun evening. One of the customs that we used to do when I was married, and I loved doing this, is when the kids were little, we would set out the milk and the cookies, but we would also set carrots out. And at some point at night, we'd get one of the dogs to start taking some bites of the carrots, so it looked like the reindeer would have some of the carrots eaten.
Okay, I gotta say on top of that, you have not had the winter, holidays, Christmas, whatever you want to call it or whatever you celebrate, unless you have had hot chocolate and cookies. So I totally am with you on that one.
You guys, so with hot chocolate, my older brother, when we were in Nebraska, we were when I used to live in Florida, we traveled to Nebraska to see family, and I saw him stirring what looked like chocolate milk, but it was really hot chocolate, and he did it without heating it up. He just had milk, and it took him like 20 minutes to get everything dissolved. I was like maybe 9, 10. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, it's hot chocolate, but cold. I was like, so cold chocolate? He's like, yeah. And that's really good. If you have patience to do that, oh, it's so creamy and so good. I'm like, oh. I will say this, one of the movies I saw with my wife a few days ago was Violent Night. And I know last week I mentioned Fat Man was my Christmas movie of the week last week. And I saw Violent Night, and I loved the movie very much. It got into the Christmas spirit of Santa just beating the ever living shit out of everyone. For the longest time, I was like, what if Santa was like this tactical, like, I will beat the ever living crap out of people? And they did it with Fat Man, and they did it with this one, and it was awesome. So if you guys haven't been able to see that movie, that's a good Christmas movie. I love it. It's a good holiday spirit. Gets me all fuzzy.
Nice. I would say I haven't done it in a few years, but I would always go to Hershey Park in Pennsylvania during Christmas time when the park is open. You can see all the lights. Having a Hershey chocolate bar melt in your hot chocolate as you're walking around the park and just seeing the lights. And last time I was there, they had a really beautiful model train set up. It was amazing to be around there during the winter. Just wish it had snowed when I was there last time.
Have you guys ever had a white Christmas?
What, you mean like actually snowing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have. I've. It's very rare, but I've had it, and I love everything about it because you're already not going anywhere. So the fact that it snows on Christmas, there's just everything right with it. Because then you're already there, you're celebrating, and now you're like, you know what? I'm gonna bring out the hot snacks and the hot drinks.
50% of the time it's snowing here on Christmas. It is the single best. You wake up in the morning, the kids are all eager to get up there, and you see the snow falling. And where I used to live, we had a little stream going through the yard. So the tree was by these big bay windows, and you could look out and see the snow and the stream coming, getting covered with the snow and the ice. And that was, I tell you, that's part of the reason I picked Funny Farm, is just because some of the visuals are so accurate that it's silly.
Nice, nice. Brandon, have you ever had a white Christmas before?
Just by default, by birth, every single one of my Christmases has been white. Not weather-wise.
Oh man, I see what you did there. Okay, free pass. That's a good one.
Speaking of white Christmas, have you guys seen the trailer for Cocaine Bear?
Yes.
Dude.
Is that Ray Liotta's final movie?
Yeah, that's sad to actually think about. That's gonna be his life. It kind of makes sense with Goodfellas in that one. It's it's all he'll be missed, but I'm definitely gonna see it because it's weird. I love weird stuff.
I don't know what it is about that. I mean, the name, they could have done like Death Bear or something, that get more of the audiences that, instead of those that are just going to read that name and they're going to be like, man, drugs, blah, blah. But, they probably watched Breaking Bad anyway. But I saw it. It looks like it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty crazy. So we're gonna skip the tweets for this week. But we're gonna get into a little segment where it's the whole idea of this next segment is I don't know how many weeks or how many episodes this is gonna carry on to, but one of the guys in the panel mentioned this, and it's the segment's gonna be how to approach women. And for you to actually approach women, there's some guys um that don't know how to approach women and or don't have good guy friends. And I think we should first delve into what oh what it is, how to get connected with guys and older men, and that bond, and to build um what's the word for it? I'm drawing a blank. I'm really drawing a blank here. What's you guys can help me. The connection, and not the connection. Oh my gosh. Have you guys ever had a brain fart before and you can't think of it but at 3 in the
Get
morning?
together, Steve.
What?
Get together, Steve.
I'm trying, man. It's been a long week.
Are you talking about how you build a connection with somebody?
And then get the courage to go talk to women, because there's a lot of guys who don't
Pussies?
know, yeah, pussies or something like that. Or just don't have the courage to go talk to a girl because they're afraid of getting the answer no, which I always say no is the best answer to get because it builds confidence. That's what the word is: confidence and courage and all that stuff. So we're going to talk about what are ways for guys to bond with other men, in whether it be in going to watch sports or go to a movie or something. What are you guys' inputs on that? We'll talk about this for a little bit.
I was blessed. I have several hobbies, but two of them are playing hockey and D&D, and it just so happened that three of my teammates for the hockey team like playing D&D. So even during the off season, getting out on the ice, we'd meet up on Sundays and spend like 8 to 12 hours just rolling dice, playing D&D, eating, joking, having fun, building that companionship of dudes. And then after that was over, if a late night hockey game was on TV, throw that on and then critique the hell out of everything that was going on.
What about you, Brandon?
Similar. Playing sports is a good way. As you get older, for example, if there's adult hockey leagues, there's adult softball leagues, and as someone who's like moved cross country and moved in different cities and different stuff like that, it's a great way to meet new people. Besides, obviously, if you're moving to a new city for work, you're going to meet coworkers and stuff, and hopefully, if you have some cool coworkers, you can get introduced to people through that way. But joining an adult sport league, going to the gym is also a good way, and you're going to meet people with similar goals. And martial arts classes, like what Andy teaches, is a good way as well. Jiu-jitsu is a good one. If you can find a good studio near you, depending on what city you're in.
Yeah, another thing, if you like beer, go to some brewery events, hang out, drink beer. You will run into people left and right. Go to festivals. You can do the same for if you're into like Renfest, go find a nearby Renfest during that season and go. And you real easy icebreakers to you already know you'll have at least a bond with a guy that you can just become friends with, and you never know. You may not like him, but hey, it happens.
I know for me, being homeschooled, I had that struggle with connecting with people, and I did how I got to connected with other guys even at a young age was soccer, and that built the confidence for me. And going to also church and being connected, especially when I got into college, Just finding a group of guys and just getting a house together and just bonding in that way. You're gonna learn real fast how annoying they can be, but it builds character in us. And I try to tell guys who are like, hey, I want to get connected and just meet other people. And
Soccer's pretty similar to hockey,
yeah,
except it's
it's
for men. Hockey.
hockey. Yeah, soccer can be. I will say this: if you ever had the ball shot right at your nuts, man, you're on the ground crying to your mommy. But I'll say this: that hockey's a little bit more manlier sport. I'll agree with that.
Soccer's are
Um,
better. Players are better actors, though. I'll give them that.
Dude, NBA is the worst actors. That's the
It's
Ravs.
true.
It is. There was a guy on Twitter that said that football is a manly sport, and I was like, well, which football? He's like, the American football is a real manly sport. I was like, I think rugby might wants to have a say on this one. I met some rugby guys, and they're crazy. But for me, it was connecting with a church I was at, or just bonding with people that I have connections with and same interests. And even like you'd be surprised, sometimes you won't have the same interest, and then you'll find out that person is like one of your good friends, and you're like, wow, we don't have a lot in common, but there's something there, and we can learn from each other. I tend to try to tell people don't go to bars, and that's never really a good place. If people want to go for it, I mean, it's I say don't loosely, but sometimes if people are like, hey, that's how I can connect. Okay. Like a
I,
brewery. What?
I'm these. I was just going to say, a bar and a brewery event are so far apart on the attitudes of the people there that it's not even remotely the same. Even though you're going to be drinking alcohol, there's just people at a brewery event are so much more relaxed, and they I think they're actually more engaging because they want, especially if there's a new beer or four on tap, they really want to talk to people and their fellow brewery mates on, okay, what did you like about that one, or what did you do? And just every now and then you'll find that one person who is speaking the same language as you, and 3 years later you're still good friends with him, and now that he has his own brewery across town, you still go there.
Yeah. It's
Those were pretty common when I was living in Florida. I don't know what they called them. It was like beer fest, or they would have live music. They'd have a bunch of different vendors. You go from table to table, whether it's trying out different beers or different products people wanted to launch in bars. And it was fun.
yeah, I met a couple of good guy friends. The friendship didn't last long, but it lasted maybe a couple of years, mostly because we just moved on and just moved our own separate ways. But I met a couple of guys at a winery place. Never thought that would ever happen because all of them they were married before me, or before I was married, and so they gave me some good marriage advice. But they were all there because their wives wanted to go, and they were all the designated drivers. And so I was like, because I went with a couple of friends, and my friends were just kind of being obnoxious, and I was like, I'm gonna go hang out with these group of guys because they look like they are having way more fun than you guys are, and it's a bonding experience, and it doesn't have to be political, it doesn't have to be anything. It's just you would be amazed at what you're gonna learn from each guy. And in that, you can learn one guy knows, hey, this is how you can connect with other people, or this is how you can get confidence of going up to a girl and saying, hey, you want to go get a cup of coffee. I remember I was at a church, and I'm not going to name any names of the church, but they were very dead set of guys don't approach women at churches, like the whole church dating thing. And it got really bad. A lot of guys just went to the church just to pick up chicks. And I was like, man, this isn't right. Like, that's not how you should do it. And if anytime a guy said, hey, you want to go get some coffee, just a friendly, just hang out, all the girls were like, no, no, because they had this idea of like, this guy's gonna just wants to just hook up with me, and it kind of ruined the whole idea of, hey, like going to a coffee shop, you're in a public place and all that. Like it's nothing's gonna happen, nothing wrong's gonna happen. It's just a guy that just wants to get to know someone and over a cup of coffee. There's nothing wrong with that. So I always tell guys like if you can find a group of guys that like to go to a coffee shop or something like that, talk about books or talk about games they're playing or movies or whatever, like that's a really good place. Or if you want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, have some wings and just hang out with people who like sports. Like I'll hang out with guys who like sports in sports that I don't even am a fan of, but I'll be there just to listen to what they have to say and like what they're interested in. Because if you show interest in them of what they're into, they're gonna show that back. It's really weird for me. Like I never really show interest in things unless someone's gonna show interest in what I'm into. It's kind of like that thing, like like respect. You give me respect first, and I'll give it back to you, kind of thing. But in the end, it all works out. And I think that if guys just had just the confidence, even just to find ways to like go on, I don't like if people are still on Facebook, like like a place where you can look up events that are happening in your local town. I don't know. I remember like the rec place where they play basketball. I used to do that. Suck at playing basketball. But that was a place where I can bond with other guys because I wanted to feed off that. I wanted to get to hang out with more guys that are around my age, maybe a little bit older, that had more wisdom or more life experience, so they can teach me of like, hey, like this is like father figure types and or any of that. I used to go to gun ranges with guys and just go shoot guns and just talk and have fun, just do things what guys do that are natural, and or go camping. I think camping's a great
Oh yeah.
way to do that. Just spend a weekend with a bunch of guys. You're gonna hate each other after a while and get tired, but you're hanging out, you know, out in the wilderness like men, and you're getting your hands dirty, doing all these things.
You know, and even like where I'm kind of isolated from really any civilization for a while. Even places such as online, like Pop Culture Breakdown, you have a room full of people who probably have similar interests. You never know. We're just reaching out, talking to one or another person. On the podcast network I'm on, I've met several good friends online that I've actually ended up meeting a couple of them in person. And probably, I'd say right now, my best friend in entirety of the world right now is a person I've never met who lives in California. So, you know, all we've ever done is talk on, you know, on the network. We've talked on Discord, but I would consider him a good friend, and we support and we help each other and get each other through some difficult times.
Frosty himself couldn't.
You mentioned meeting people at church is one alternative too, but it might be controversial. Is you could join a cult. Now it's a bit more of a commitment, but the people that you become friends with, you'll probably be friends with them forever, whether you like it or not. But that is another option. Not the first option, but it just is, you know, I'm just throwing it out there.
And just remember, you know,
We're
don't
all
drink the
about
Kool-Aid.
inclusivity. We're all about inclusivity on the Man-O-Rama show.
Join a cult.
Just don't drink the Kool-Aid.
You're in LA, Scientology, baby. I'm just kidding. Don't do it. But it's
Imagine like going to your first Scientology meeting. I can't remember. I think was it the opening scene of. I think it was the first Ghostbusters or the second Ghostbusters. I get them mixed up, but where he shocks the guy even though he gets the answers right.
Oh, it's the first one.
It's the first one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Rorschach test.
What was it called? The Warshak?
Rorschach or no Rorschach? Yeah. Wasn't it a bunch of blurry images and they had to guess was the girl that Bill Murray was trying to hook up with, and then the other guy.
Gary would know this, and he'd be disappointed.
They were testing for psychic abilities, I think.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then, have you guys seen the Ghostbuster Afterlife?
No,
that was late.
If you ever,
is it worth watching?
Yeah, watch
Yes.
it. It takes away the 2016 Ghostbusters, but I'm
I
not
didn't
going to
watch
give away
that.
I'm not going to give away what happens at the end. There's a post-credit scene that's hilarious. So if you guys have seen
Wonder
it,
what streaming service it's on. I'll have to look for it.
you could. I think it's just renting right now.
Yeah, I'm not paying for that.
But someone in the chat that said man, it was Carla. She said Man-O-Rama cult. We're a cult, guys. We're a cult.
Well, we're supposed to have initiations for everybody that comes on the show, but
Well, that didn't work out so good because of Tony
yeah,
Stark.
people are pussing out.
But it's
What was the initiation?
oh, you just do something for
Since,
as a reaction.
since we've talked about going camping and getting your hands dirty with men, should we move forward and get back to manliness and talk about meeting and talking with women? We're going to wait for Mr. Masterson to join us for that discussion. 'Cause we have a couple articles that we can get to as well.
Yeah, we're gonna get into yeah, we can get into the main one.
I have an interesting question
What?
off the cuff for you guys, considering the news this week with DC and Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that when I was a little kid, like Superman was one of my favorite movies, like the Christopher Reeve Superman. I love that movie. And I'm thinking to myself, who are they? Like, they're clearly, it seems like they're starting everything over from the ground up. But as a man, right? How many masculine actors are left in Hollywood that aren't like in their 70s, like Stallone and that era, Jean-Claude Van Damme, like the 80s action star era? Who are they going to cast that's not going to look like a twink play Superman or Batman or Flash or Green Lantern? So they're going to reboot the whole. There isn't manly. It's not an accident, in my opinion. I mean, it's just like everything else, the attack on masculinity. But who are they going to cast in these roles? I'm very curious to see what happens moving forward. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing when the behind the scenes stuff of studios and Hollywood is way more interesting. The drama behind the scenes is way more interesting than any product they put out. It just seems to be the case the last couple of years. You guys have any ideas? Like who would you think would be a good fit for like next Superman or Batman?
I got nothing.
I think if it's gonna be, it would have to be unknown,
Mm-hmm.
and it would I don't know. It's Hollywood has bastardized what being a man is, and it's really hard. I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know how they're gonna approach that, or if they are. I don't know. I hope it's gonna be someone who can be masculine and show.
And they had Cavill. A lot of people they didn't necessarily like the movies. The stories were so poorly written.
Yeah.
But at least a little bit of Justice League. He was actually, the upbeat, more traditional Superman type personality. He's a good actor and he can play it. He looks the role. He's very likable, but
I'll
moved on for them.
I'll be brutally honest. Who in their 20s and maybe late 20s actually know the stories of Superman from the comics, his motto? I know they were trying to get rid of the motto for a while, truth, justice, and the American way. So I know they're out there. I've talked to people who are 20, even my son's friends are rebelling against the norm. So maybe there's someone in that group that we don't know about who will step up, but how many really know the stories? I mean,
I really have a lot of respect for that artist, or I think he's a colorist and artist that spoke up and quit DC. I think his name is Gabe. I'm not recalling his last name right now. I'll find it in a moment, but he's the one that called out on that, where they were trying to get rid of truth, justice, and the American way, trying to claim it was offensive. It was just ridiculous. And he had the courage to stand up to it. The guy's got a family. He walked off a DC job, put faith in his own work, started his own Comicsgate project, and has been working nonstop ever since. His own work and other projects. Affiliated with Comicsgate, and I think that's a really important lesson for people to stand up to principles. This guy put everything on the line. It wasn't like he had mouths to feed. It wasn't just him. It wasn't no guarantee, when you go off on your own as an artist that you're going to be successful independently. But the guy's done a great job.
Yeah, I don't. It's still a good question. I just don't know who they who. I just read Gary's comment. Funny guy. Ha ha ha. I'm watching your comment, Gary. But I don't know. You could make a guy look as masculine and man as possible. And that's just all for show. And that's called steroids. And I think that if you got a young Stallone to be Superman, and he has heart, he has everything you possibly want in a man, that would be cool. You wouldn't be able to understand that motherfucker at all. I always, every time when I was younger, when he was even younger, you can understand what he's saying now. But when he was younger, like, you needed a guy with subtitle cue cards just for the director to read what he's saying half the time. So it's interesting. We'll see what they're gonna pull out. So
Yeah, this whole conversation, I've been trying to think of someone that is already existing who could fit that genre, that role, and I'm coming up with nothing. I can't even give you a whiff or a hint of anyone that I think would be able to do it, because, like you said, you can get the costume, you can get the facade, you can get the fake muscles, but is it really Superman? I'll be curious. As much as I want Cavill in that role, I will be curious on what path they go and how much of an epic failure it might actually end up being.
I just think to myself, how many actors or actresses are left in Hollywood that haven't revealed themselves to be just total douchebags, that are actually have charisma and are likable, don't shit on fans constantly, or don't push their stupid political views that are given to them that they don't even think on their own. On people and call people Nazis and bigots and racists and homophobes and every other nonsense in the book. It's like,
well, I have the answer to that. It's a career killer right there, and it's usually the older guys that can get away with it, like Mel Gibson, Stallone, and all them that can get away with not being your typical new. And welcome, Andy Masterson.
Welcome, Andy.
Your typical
they seem to be smart enough to not do stupid stuff like that, where they attack their potential audience for no reason.
So one of the things, if you guys have noticed, the smart actors, I consider women actresses actors. You're acting. It's, to me, that's what it is as a whole. When I say
bigot,
I know, right? This bald bearded man called a woman a man.
Just the occupation.
But yeah, it's, to me, that's as a whole. As whenever I say actor, I'm branching out for both sides. You'll see a lot of actors, the ones who are quiet. Those are the ones who we should pay attention to. The ones who spout off like, I was the first female lead character. Sorry, I know Joe Schumacher was ahead of his time when he made the bat suit with nipples for J-Law, but like, let's be real. Like, when you get younger, I thought about this long and hard. When you get younger actors that just spout things off, whether it just be their agent that wants them to or anything, it makes it really hard, and it's obnoxious and it's annoying. And I have a theory that a lot of these young actors, even well into their 30s and 40s, that's still young in my eyes. If whatever they're spouting out, usually their beliefs are the opposite. It's because they want to keep making money. They want to keep being in the spotlight. But then you get like Stallone, Mel Gibson, Anthony Hopkins, all these older actors,
Speaking of
oiled.
meeting up at a bar, I would love to have some beers with Mel Gibson at the bar.
So I'll get to that. I have a really cool story about Mel.
Same with Stallone. Seem like great guys, and even
Yeah.
Frank Stallone. If you
Oh,
follow
it's
Frank Stallone on
like
Instagram, he's pretty funny too.
like they're just quiet. Quiet in the sense of they're not going to be political. They're not going to spout off all these things because they understand, like, my job is to entertain people. My job is to show this persona of, hey, this is what it is. And they show this masculine, like, action hero, big buff guy, but deep down, they are real men. And I actually met Mel Gibson in an elevator in college. And this was right around when he got blacklisted from Hollywood. And I turned to him. He was the only, I met a lot of celebrities, and I never was like, oh my goodness. I told Mel Gibson in the elevator, look, I know you get this a lot, and I don't want to act all crazy or anything, but you're one of the few people, the reason why I got into film. And we just started talking, and it was very natural. He's like, well, what are you working on right now? I was like, well, I'm an intern for this previous company that my brother started, and we're working on this whole entire Bible that's made into a movie. And it never really picked up. It never got anything. It would have been a really cool movie. And I think when I said that, deep down inside, he's like, I already did this. And I kicked ass doing it. Fine, I'll make a sequel. But that conversation with him, you never got the sense that he was this racist, bigot guy. You got the sense of, this guy is as real as you're going to get. He really cares about people. He's funny. Everything that you see in the movies, that's what he was. He really did care about the art of film, which you don't see that anymore. And so when you get these younger people that just spout off whatever, like, oh, do this and this and this, TikTok and whatever the bullshit it is, people tune it off. And then you get the other side. You get the John Cusack side, where they just go fucking nuts. And they don't know how to handle everything because no one's paying attention. You get the Kim Kardashian that just breaks down, like, oh, I need this, whatever.
Hey,
Because
we got a special guest that I wanted to bring on the show right now.
Yes.
John, welcome to the show.
Oh, John Cusack, if you're watching, you could be on the show. We'll rip you. But
John Nutsack is his name. John Nutsack.
But I don't know if Andy, do you know, maybe Brandon, you can give the question to Andy about what the question that you gave us.
Andy, we were talking a moment ago, just one of the common themes in the show has been the attack on masculinity, with the news going down with Warner Brothers basically doing, it's like a hard reboot of the DC universe with James Gunn. Who can you think of that they would cast now as Superman or Batman or Flash or Green Lantern? I mean, going forth, like, I can't think of a single masculine
Liam
actor.
Hemsworth. A little joke.
Is he busy filming The Witcher or actually?
Well, this stuff, it's funny. Look back at things like you look at Humphrey Bogart. He's certainly doesn't look anything like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Stallone. Very masculine, very no nonsense kind of guy. Like, you got the impression that, yeah, like he would shoot you. And you go back,
That's such a big presence.
Yeah, and you look at James Cagney, who was actually a judo fighter. So yeah, but he wasn't a big guy, but he was very capable. And that's really what it comes down to. It's the attitude that, like, I will get things done, whatever I need to get done. And today, it comes down to people. I've always gone by the idea that people really don't know themselves until they're about 30, and that's living in the real world. And when you're living in Hollywood, where like nothing is real. It's like you're surrounded by fake people saying the same fake things. You're not getting like real life answers. You're not getting things that are genuine. It's like, what's the appropriate response? What am I supposed to say here? And that's the problem that you have now, especially a young actor trying to break into this crap. And when you see somebody like Henry Cavill, who is extraordinarily genuine, here's a guy, he goes and builds computers, and he's got a passion for the characters he plays, and concerned about the art. He's not concerned about what box he's supposed to tick. And that's really where you have a problem with like today's thing is finding somebody like Stephen Amell just put a thing out where he said all these people saying goodbye on Twitter. All right, you said goodbye, leave. All right, don't drag it out. You leave. If you don't want to be here, leave. Don't it's like I'm leaving, I'm going. It's like right there, you're not being genuine. You're not being and as a culture, and this is part of the danger of all the ESG stuff, is that people are afraid to have actual genuine feelings because it might not be the approved genuine feelings. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to see. Now, I think the next generation that comes up is going to be a lot different. And you're already starting to see it. There's a lot of rejection of this stuff because, there were people that actually reacted to being name called. And when you have somebody who's like, yeah, I've heard this before. But we put a lot of this stuff to bed a long time ago. It was, it's kind of like, you're here in the 21st century and you're you picture yourself as this big freedom fighter and fighting for this cause and well, that war has already been won. It's easy to fight when all the bad guys are all in your head and there's not somebody actually there who's going to punch you in the mouth or hurt you. It's easy to do that battle now. It wasn't so easy back in the 60s when you were having racial issues and stuff like that where people were actually being physically hurt. These days, it's much more common. Like if you go into a city, if you don't look like you belong there, chances are you're going to get tuned up a little bit. And it doesn't matter, what color you are, any which way, you are taking your life into your hands. Now, it's not the same, but they want you to believe that there's been no progress with, people up until this point, and it's dumb. Until you get people that are willing to be themselves and say, this is what I believe, and it's because now and I think a lot of it's the low attention span. It's like, who are you? Okay, you tick this box, so I can just write you off because you're a racist, misogynistic, homophobic bigot, and I don't have to talk to you now because I'm better than you. And until you break away from that, it's all pointless. And the problem with it is that those people that are applying for the job think that they have to do those things. I got a couple friends of mine. They're in corporate America, and they're pretty high up. Like one is a vice president of a global company, and somebody will bring up an idea in a meeting, and if it falls along certain categories, into the alphabet or rainbow category, it could be the stupidest idea in the world, but nobody will say so. They just because they know if they say something, there's somebody that wants their job that's going to try and leverage that into getting them fired so they can get their job. They just don't say anything, so they push through a stupid idea because it's representative and all this. It's like, I don't want an airline pilot flying my plane because he ticked a box. I want airline pilot that knows how to fly my plane. I want like and that's what it has to come down to with entertainment. And really,
I
how
also
many?
prefer my airline pilot not to have a box or an artificial box either. If they, had a surgery reassignment.
Oh, you just want the black box.
Yes, those are the only two. I only want 2 black boxes in the cockpit. That's it. I don't want any additional boxes or moist meat pockets that were, store bought from a gender reassignment doctor.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing that bothers me about all this stuff is that we're convincing young people and look,
I don't want any pilot with a landing strip either. No offense.
you don't know what it's like to be old and to sit there and think and to look back and like, oh man, wasn't it so great when I could go out drinking all night and get up and go to work in the morning? Wasn't it so great when I could wake up without aches and pains? And there's a lot of people out there that wake up and they have to take medications. And they just say to themselves, oh man, wouldn't it be great if I could just wake up one day and not have to take all these pills? And now you're convincing all these younger people to go change things. It's going to require you to take medications every day of your life. And someday you're going to wake up, you're going to look in the mirror, and you're going to say, I don't recognize that person looking back at me. Because, my beard used to be dark and, in my body, and I didn't have wrinkles and stuff like that. And, what you find out is it's still you inside. It doesn't matter the package that's in there, that you're still you. Everything else has changed, but you're still you. And all you want is just you know what? All these changes that you made, it's the hairstyles, the clothes styles, the outfits, the car you drive, all that stuff, it all goes away, and then you're still left with yourself. And we're teaching these people no, make all these changes and you'll be happy. No, you won't, because you're still you. And until you deal with your own issues and you find out who you are, it's pointless. And that's where you're at with these actors. That's why you can't when you get somebody who's genuine like Henry Cavill, he stands out. But you get so few of that because nobody actually knows where they stand on things. Nobody actually comes across yes, you want to be accepting of people so you're not harassing them. Somebody wants to live their life a certain way, hey, more power to them. Now, don't expect me to call a dog a cat, okay? I'm not going to walk around and tell people that I'm 6'5" and they have to look up at me as I pass by. That's kind of stupid. It's that's your hang up. It's not it's not anybody else's problem. It's your problem, okay? And but now you see this happening, and everybody's afraid to actually have their own viewpoints and tastes, and you're allowed to have that. Christ, I remember back in the 80s when you had the religious right that was very censoring and stuff, and they would tell people tell homosexuals you know what, you just haven't had the right vagina yet, and that would change you back. And now it's gone completely the other way, where they're telling heterosexual people, well, you just haven't tried it the other way, and if you did, you'd probably like it. No, it didn't work then, and it doesn't work now. It's
now they're telling me you don't have a vagina yet. Trying to trick them into cutting their dicks off.
Well, yeah, it's
I've had artificial crab meat. I like the real meat.
There was a meme out there the other day, boomers are out there saying, I can't believe I dressed like that. And 80s or Gen Xers are I can't believe I had that hairstyle. And millennials are I can't believe I listened to this music. And the Gen Zers are going to be and I can't believe I cut my dick off. It's here's the idea is you don't make it's a bad idea to go get tattoos when you're young, because chances are it's not something you're going to want the rest of your life. Chances are you're going to grow out of that phase. You're going to find something that's different, especially when you're young, because you haven't had that much experience. And
I just want to say, I'm looking for my first tattoo. Does anybody have any ideas I'm just kidding.
A pink hat.
Deal. So I watched this video earlier. I don't know who, it's some YouTube chick. She read something. I don't know if it was on Twitter or Facebook or something. Anyways, it was just this like little comment or tweet or whatever it was. It was saying if a guy's looking at a girl's ass, he's homosexual. Oh, I'm thinking, no. If I'm looking, no. Still, no. It was weird, and it's
Did you say looking or eating?
looking.
Okay.
I know my southern accent can get in the way of things, but there was it was Chris Hemsworth. He said he's not going to do Thor anymore because of how they treated the character Thor. I think he's kind of figured out they made him this joke now, and I think he should have figured that out in 2016 when he did Ghostbusters, when they just made him a big joke. And I think he's kind of slowly figuring things out with all his steroids and everything of like, you're kind of making Thor, which is the very manly, just dominance of his presence alone is just like, wow, this guy can do work. And I think with him speaking out, and then you're getting other actors, like male guys, that are just saying like, I'm just gonna not do this anymore. And that's why I kind of like watching the old like Expendables, and you watch the older guys who have been through life and who you could tell just by their face on screen, they have literally taken a beating and they still do it. And that's why I like watching the older actors. I like hearing them talk, like just the older men who've just been through a lot, like Stallone, Jason Statham. I can't think of the guy in Expendables who has the jacked up ears. He was a MMA fighter, and just those guys that are just genuine. They're just there. That's who it is. He's a very genuine guy where it's like, we play these characters because it's a paycheck, and we're just there to have fun, and it's a job, and we're not here to spout off any bullshit that they're being told to, or if they feel like they need to. They're just real guys, and I think that's who it is. I think if they did decide to pick a guy who is Superman, they pick a Midwest cornbread fed big dude. I know a lot of those guys. I can call them up right now and be like, hey, I bet you could be Superman. You're 6'3", you're a big dude. Okay. And
Any MMA guys you think could act?
Conor McGregor.
Superman's only 6'2". Batman's 6'4".
Really? I thought Batman was a little bit shorter than.
Oh, Batman is taller than Superman.
You know who they should do? I know this is totally off topic, but if they if they recasted Wolverine, pick a guy who's the actual height in the comics. That's all I gotta say. But when I heard
probably asked Henry Cavill to play Lois, and that's when he's like, I gotta go.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna go play some video games. Like, I heard about the news yesterday about Henry Cavill leaving. I wasn't a big fan of Man of Steel or him being Superman per se, but I like his passion of the character. He really cared, and the fans, and I saw that, and I was like, all right, I can stand behind you on that one. You're probably the second best Superman, but that would be a Zack Snyder take of Superman. But it's I think if men who are even around our age, even 20, you can be a man even in high school. If the actors just said, you know what, I'm done with this Hollywood cult bull crap going on right now. I want to be me. It's a job. I want to entertain people. I want them to come. Like, I remember when we were young, we didn't care what movie it was. If Stallone, Michael Keaton, or anyone, it doesn't matter what political background they were, what their beliefs were. If we just knew, if we heard their name, we wanted to go see a Stallone movie. That's what it was. It was a Michael Keaton movie. It was a Michael Douglas movie. It was one of those things because we could relate. It was Michael Douglas to me was a dad figure to me. So was Stallone. But now it's this whole like, oh, they're just characters. They're not actors. I think it was Quentin Tarantino. I just despise Quentin Tarantino, but he was right about the comic book characters. These actors who play these characters, they're just characters. That's it. I think Robert Downey Jr. was the last really main comic book character. You went to see a Robert Downey Jr. movie because that's what you got. It's now, oh, we're going to go see a Black Widow movie. Okay, it's this whole politicized and tear down men in movies, and you only get a handful now. You get like the John Wick movies, the Expendables. You get the any type of action movie, Jason Statham movie. Anytime there's a Jason Statham in it, it's a Jason Statham because he values, hey, this is just a job. I don't care. He's a quiet one. So is Keanu Reeves. That's the thing that Hollywood tends to be like, you know what? We can't let the cat out of the box because the moneymaker is there. And I think Top Gun proved that with the second one. Tom Cruise, as crazy as he proved that being a masculine man and just making a movie for us to enjoy really proved a point. It was the staple and it was the beginning of what is to come of movies. And I think if actors just shut up and just started acting and started doing what they were paid to do, I think movies would be a lot better instead of this whole we need to put in a chick who looks Mexican or Spanish. Like it doesn't matter what they what?
I want to talk about Thor a minute.
Okay.
I did a show about comic book characters and specifically Thor because of his PTSD. When you look at the Thor character arc, it is very reminiscent of what Hollywood has done. Thor came out as this big, powerful guy. You still saw bits and pieces of how powerful and manly he was, but over time, he got defeated, beat down, PTSD, everything. The reason he was a fat Thor that everyone laughed at was because of PTSD. Okay, I've been there. I know that feeling. It's dehumanizing. It takes every ounce of man out of you when you're in that full throes of the PTSD. And instead of giving him that redemption arc of becoming who he was again, he became a laughing stock. The movies became a joke. Thor was a joke. A woman can do it better. Even in Guardians of the Galaxy, or it might have been a bit, I forget the movie, but when the ship crashes into him and they bring him in, they're like, oh, look at his muscles. Oh, look at this. He became an object that they absolutely bitch about that we do to women, or they say we do about women. And the whole time you had this great story of this tremendous man who could have been the best, most powerful creature and person in the entire galaxy and universe. And you see him suffer and get knocked down and knocked out. But instead of being built back up, they make him a fucking joke. And it pisses me off every time I accidentally see any of the movies now, because besides Thor, I'm a big fan of Beta Ray Bill. So I've been following all of that for a very long time. And to see what they did to that character pisses me off every time. So I have almost zero faith for any new male superhero that anyone puts out that's not, say, over 50.
Imagine how they would portray Beta Ray Bill now.
Ugh.
They probably take Beta to the whole new level and be nothing like the comic books. They probably make him like a My Little Pony character.
Probably. Sorry about my rant. That's one of my personal pet peeves. I hate that. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Well, it's funny because the idea that everything has become so politicized, and that's the accusation leveled against people who push back. They came into the sphere and changed everything to the way they wanted it. They walked in the house that we were living in, rearranged all the furniture, and then we start to put it back, or if we say we don't like it the way it is, then they attack us, and that we're being political. It's like you did it first, like, and because they won't. It's like the thing that's going on now with Peter Parker as Spider-Man, and Miles Morales is Miles Morales, and it sets everybody off. Well, the fact of the matter is that if Miles Morales wasn't attached to Spider-Man, Miles Morales wouldn't have been a character. It's like he would have like just kind of been a flash in the pan. Like, well, you can't say that. Yes, I can, because I've read comic books for 45 years, and I've seen tons and tons of characters be created and not really go anywhere. Whenever you think of Batman, it's always Bruce Wayne. Whenever you think of Superman, it's Clark Kent. Spider-Man is Peter Parker. But they have to take over something because people won't accept it on the merits that the so-called merits that they think that they've infused it with. And ultimately, nature always resets itself. It's like you look at Chernobyl right now, and everything's growing again, and it's all green and stuff like that. It probably wouldn't eat the fish, but nature resets itself. It reclaims things pretty quickly, and sooner or later, things have to reset themselves. Children will need mothers. Children will need fathers. Women will need husbands, and sooner or later, reality will knock on your door in the form of someone who wants to take what you have. You better be powerful enough to stop them, or have someone there who's powerful enough to stop them. And I'm sorry, ladies, but outside of using a ton of steroids and praying that the person who's coming to your door is loaded up on soy, you're probably not going to stand too much of a chance unless you have a firearm, which is another sore spot with a lot of these people. Like, oh, I don't like guns. They're not. Yes, they are. Guns are very good. Guns are guns are going to be the thing you can save your life. That's going to balance things out for what nature didn't give you. But the illusion that you're going to overpower a man is just, it's fantasy and it's dangerous. But nature is resetting itself now. It's like all these people, they're going to go through this phase and they're going to have lots of regret. I've seen this over and over and over again. It's a cycle that just keeps repeating itself. And everybody wants to do something, and then it goes back the other way again. It's not something that's everybody thinks that, like, oh, look, we're all revolutionary and stuff like that. Yeah, everybody thought that. And guess what? Like, now you're starting to get back to a point where people are going to, like, what's happened back in the 80s. Back in the 50s, it was like, the popular culture was kind of stuffy and things like that, and rigid and, very, very conservative. And like you went into the 60s and 70s and everything got like really wild and crazy. And back in the 80s, things got more conservative again. And then you got into the 90s where things started getting more rebellious with the grunge era and stuff like that. And then you got into all this crap. And now we're starting to get into a more conservative phase again. And you're going to see all this stuff get kind of pushed back again. The only problem with it is like, and once the people with the blue hair stop getting attention, and then they're going to have to find out that they need something more than like, look how fancy I am. I've got my pronouns, and nobody pays attention anymore, and they actually have to get by on their personality. That's when things will start to change.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah. So things like, with, you see that in, it's funny because, they say they want men to be more sensitive, and there's Thor being very vulnerable, and yet let's just make fun of him. That's like, so when a man does show a little bit of sensitivity, then they mock him and make fun of him. So it's like you're a liar. You really don't want that. It's like, and it's just like, women will say, to a group how they want like men to be sensitive and caring and all this stuff. But if you've ever been in a room full of women and you hear them talk frankly and honestly amongst themselves, they don't want that. They want a jackhammer that's going to get the job done. Not something that's going to be like, let me caress your feet for you. Like, yeah, that's not getting the job done. Sorry. And nature is resetting itself.
Yeah, and I am really shocked because I live in New England. It's everything up here is backwards when it comes to this kind of stuff. And to hear my son and his friends communicate and through Discord and chat during games. 3 years ago, I wouldn't have had any hope. But now I'm what you said about the cycles, the repeating itself. It's true. It rings right, and I'm witnessing it now. Where I live, I'm probably 15% of the state with my thinking. And out of 10 or 11 kids, boys in his class, 3 or 4 of them think the same way. And I know for a fact one of them, their parents voted for Bernie Sanders for president. So if their son is thinking along the same lines, there's that change that is slowly going to matriculate through society, and hopefully we'll see it sooner rather than later.
Well, you can't get away from it. It's, everybody pretends that things are a certain way. But nobody wants, it's like, all right, so there's a big push for environmentalism, right? Show me someone who wants dirty water. Show me someone who wants like trash everywhere. Okay. Everybody says that, they don't want these things. If you go certain places, you find out that like some of those places are a little bit dirtier than other places. Well, nobody loaded up their trash and took it to a neighborhood and dumped it. The people that live there did that. We talk about all this stuff. We want to do all this environmental stuff. Nobody's got the balls to say something to the guy in Walmart who opens up his car door and dumps all of his trash in the parking lot. Nobody wants to turn around and say to the woman who's like, being a complete pig about things that like, you're being a pig, because then you would look like, you're the bad guy and stuff like that. And you would be, and so it's easy to pick on the corporation that's going to bow to your will and just say, yes, we want to do better. We want to do better. And you put all these regulations on things and you wonder why everything's made in China. You can't get anything made over here because like you have to control everything. Jesus, like look at California. They want to have no gas powered cars by 2030 or something like that. I mean, think how idiotic that is.
Well, go ahead.
Well, think about where you're at, Jeff. Like, what happens if you get stuck in traffic up there on a winter day when the temperature is -5 and your electric car runs out of a charge and like you have no heat? It's a lot easier for somebody to get a couple gallons of gas to you than it is for somebody to bring a diesel generator and recharge your battery, and then you can have some heat after about an hour.
Well, I laugh because Hurricane Irene tore through New England 11 years ago. And the then governor of the state said, we are going to forego regulations on rebuilding the roads, rebuilding the bridges, rebuilding everything. That they just wanted it rebuilt. We're going to, all the environmental impact studies gone out the window. Outside of one bridge, everything that was built at that time in a record speed is still standing and doing well. It would have normally taken all of that work 4 to 6 years here to get approved to get all the work done. They got it done in weeks to months, depending on the location, and it's still standing. When you, and I apologize for this. I know there were women on the cruise, but when you let men build without restriction, whether it's, roads, bridges, family, personal relationships, you will be shocked at what can happen with just a little bit of, here, go do it. We're not going to critique. We're not going to, overlook your shoulder. Just get it done. Boom, bam, done. And things are fine.
Yeah, it's, there's certain things that men and women are better at certain things. Now, and obviously, as with every generalizations, there are always exceptions. That should go without saying. But what people want to do is they want to point to this minority of exceptions and say look, that's the rule. It's not the rule. Generally speaking, it's like we have this big push now. People think that there's inequality in the workplace and there should be more female CEOs. Well, why don't we have the same push for sewage workers and trash collectors and things like that? It's like, oh, well, no, I don't want that job. Whoa, well, somebody's got to do it. Yeah, but I don't want that one. It's like, you want equality and things until it's, it's like, women will complain often about some women will complain about that men don't do their share of the housework. But when the pipe to the toilet breaks, it's usually the men down there fixing it. When the trash is spilled all over the place, it's usually the man out there picking it up and putting it away, or repairing the brickwork or something like that, or putting the cabinets back on and fixing the door and changing the oil in the car. But very rarely do you have men saying, how come the women don't help me with this? Because you know what? Men like doing that. Men like doing these things that a woman can do, but would rather not. You'd rather not have to do these things, but you could if you had to in a pinch.
In a healthy, functioning society and in a healthy relationship, it's not a competition.
Yeah.
The men, as a man, I don't want my woman doing any type of thing that's going to potentially lead to her injuring herself or put her in danger, whether it's doing stuff around the house or a career choice. It's just silly because, when you get into a relationship, the primary goal is, to build a strong bond and raise a family together. And then once you're raising your family together, neither one of you want to try to avoid, if possible, being put in a position where you're not going to be around for your kids.
Right. Now, the other thing is, too, that men have to do their part. Men have to be... Look, I give advice to people all the time, and I never tell people what to do, but I will tell them what not to do. And it's usually the thing that I did, because it doesn't work out.
When you reach our age, Andy, we make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, it's been that way for a long time, Jeff. It's been but what I tell people is look, especially young people, if you have to say to yourself, this will work out if, right there, you probably shouldn't do it. Because that's the little voice in your head that's going to say, if I'm really quiet, her dad won't hear me climbing in her window, no matter how many shotguns he has. And that's the kind of stuff that we'll talk ourselves into. We think we're indestructible. We think we can do all these things. And it's and women do the same thing. It's they, sometimes will go hook up with a guy and they know that he's got a girlfriend and and then he breaks up with that girl and he's with this girl and then she's shocked to find out that he cheated on her. Well, did you forget your job application? How you got there? It's that's part of the the thing that you just signed on for. But it's the stupidity of this. It's it's the idea of you have to be a little bit self-aware about the problems that you're making with all this. And men and women have equal doesn't mean same. I can have a pound of feathers and I can have a pound of gold coins. Okay, one takes up a lot more mass than the other, but it's still a pound. But they're still equal. But they're very, very different. And that's what it is. Like, and for men, women can give us the greatest gift of our lives in our children. And when you look at your kids and, you you realize and you watch, your wife go through all this pain and, well, not in my wife's case, because she'll say it was the easiest thing she ever did. Pushed 3 times and both kids came out like, 3 years apart. But anyway, but they go through all this and look, pregnancy and childbearing wreaks havoc on a woman's body. And they give you this little miniature version of yourself that it's a mixture of you and their mother. And the things that will drive you the most crazy about your kids are the things that remind you the most about yourself that you don't like. The things that will really get on your nerves about your kids are the things that you look at in your wife that drive you insane. And as much as they may complain about how much they dislike or disagree with their mother, they'll end up doing the same things again. And it's the joke, oh my God, when did I become my father? When did I become my mother? It happens. It's but for a long time, we'll live in denial of those things. But this woman can give you the greatest gift that you'll ever have in your life. There's a trade-off to that. She's probably going to drive you insane most of the time, but especially when it comes to trying to decide where you're going to eat, which never happens, right?
You have.
Yeah, it's but that's the thing. It's they can do something we can't, and there's a trade-off for that. And making the other sex think that the opposite sex has it better is the dumbest thing in the world. It's just idiotic. It's you look at little kids. Little boys will go out to the playground. They'll get in a disagreement, and one gets a bloody nose. Then it's over. And if you fought back, chances are you'll probably be friends with that other kid. Girls, on the other hand, will get into a fight, and they'll never let it go. They'll run into each other 30 years later, and they'll still hate each other's guts. And it doesn't matter, what happens. It's I hate them. Very, very rarely does it, change like that. But it's just a difference in the wiring. Anybody, you have to go to school for too long, get the intelligence indoctrinated out of you to think that men and women are the same. Anyone who has ever had any experience dealing with men and women recognizes that they are two very, very different creatures. You can take men from all around the world. You can take a guy who is an Inuit in Alaska, and you take some guy in some remote part of Nigeria. You stick them down together, and if they can speak each other's language, you just say to them, "Hey guys, what's the last thing you argued with your wife about?" And okay, well, you'll have common ground. You have a hot woman walk by, and both of them will stop and it's men. It's how we're wired. We're visually stimulated. That's nature. You can't change it. It's just women will say that you should control those hormones and those impulses, but don't tell them that time of the month. Then you have no understanding. It's the double standard, and that's what everyone needs a little self-awareness about, because we do a double standard and they do a double standard.
Well,
but
one of the things so my wife, so I do construction with Gary. I know, surprise. I hang out with that dude. He is a great friend. So if he's watching this, sup, brother? But I was telling my wife this the other day because she wants to do a homestead and she wants to do all these things, and she's like, "Do you know how to raise cattle and do you know how to do all these things?" I was like, "Yeah." And I was trying to break down to her doing construction, and we had a little topic about this, and she was, I think I don't know the gist of it, but it was pretty much, why can't women do this and that? And I was like, well, women can do construction. There are women that can do that. But there's a lot of women that just don't want to get their hands dirty or anything. And you know what? That's okay. And a lot of guys, and I told it because it was based off of, I can do vacation for about 2 days. I can be gone for 2 days. And if if I'm away from work for 2 days, I need to do something with my hands. I remember when we were on our 5th anniversary a few years back, and we were at a hotel. There was probably about 20 things I could find wrong for this hotel, and I was like, if I had my tools, I could fix this and make this the best damn hotel room possible. My brain, it's to me, guys are so, we want, like, once guys, like younger guys, figure out, hey, we're built to do things with our hands.
Steve,
And
you just hit on one of the biggest problems that women have with men. Because men like to fix things.
yes.
Women don't want you to fix things, they want you to listen and empathize.
Yep.
And here,
We speak that language.
so I told my wife this one time. I was like, here's the thing, guys. Here's the difference between guys and women, or specifically men and women. A lot of guys also, and I say guys like there's a different level. Men can understand this a lot more, and I know some guys can. Is men like things simple in a conversation. For me specifically, I don't know. Some men are a little bit different. That's cool. I told my wife, look, if you're gonna tell a story, tell me the beginning, middle, and end. I don't need the filler of anything. And that's how we are. We're not. I think a lot of women will talk to men in a way that they're talking to their girlfriends. No, just tell me. Wait, we can figure it out. And that's the problem with being. One of the things I'm struggling with being married is I like to fix things. If my wife is having a problem, she's dealing with something with work or friends or whatever it might be, and she's not having a good mood, or she's just not feeling it, one, she'll disguise it thinking I know exactly what the problem is. I don't know. You need to let me know. But also the other problem is if she's saying, hey, look, I'm dealing with this and this and this, I have to learn to listen to her. Know what the problem is, just listen to her. Make her vent. A lot of guys just want to vent. Like when we just start talking, we just want to vent. We don't care who it is. It's like when a guy gets his head when he gets his head hit on, like he bumps his head or something. It's just stay away. Just stay away from him. Don't ask him how he's feeling because he wants to start swinging. I remember I hit my head real good on Gary's truck on one of the doors, and he took a step back and he's like, all right, let him have his moment for a second and we'll move on. I told my wife, look, I'm a problem solver. I build houses, I remodel, I do carpentry, I do all these crazy things. So if you have a problem, I want to start fixing it, figure out how to fix things. That's in my nature. And so I think that's like the communication is not there. A lot of guys, if like a real guy, he wants to fix things. He wants to fix what's the problem with his girlfriend or wife. And that's genuine. If there's women that are watching this show, if you have a guy that wants to just fix things and will listen to what you have to say and be like, hey, look, this is what I'm struggling with. And then he's like, how can I fix this? Like 1, 2, 3, let's do this. I want to fix what's going on because I don't want you to feel this way. I'm willing to sacrifice my life. And that's the thing. Like a lot of women don't understand that we do these crazy ass jobs, build things. Like the world that we're in right now is built on the backs of men. Like, we're willing to die and sacrifice our lives just so women can feel like safe. Like, I have knee problems, back problems, only because I'm providing for my wife. And it weighs on me. When it's cold like right now, my knees are just like, I don't want to fucking get up anymore. I don't want to deal with this. Like, it's my body ages in winter times. Like, I just don't want to deal with this. But let's get into the main topic of tonight. Goat, if you have the still shot or single shot of what we're going to talk about. I don't know if you guys have read the article that we're going to talk about, but this, I know I showed this to Gary, or it was actually Talcum that sent that to Gary and I, and we were pretty disgusted by this, and I called out the author of this article on Men's Health, and this this really pissed me off on what it is to be a guy. So when the goat has this up, we can talk about this. I don't know how you feel about this, you glorious bastards of men on this show. I can actually, what's funny is right before I get into this, I can actually call myself a bastard because I don't know my real dad. I'm adopted, so yeah, there's that. My wife hates when I say that. She's like, you should not say that. I was like, well, technically I am. It's the son who doesn't know his dad. And I've seen a picture. He's an overweight, redheaded guy. I was like, I look nothing like that guy. But anyways, so this numbnut of a schmuck of this guy, whatever, I went to his Twitter, and it was a disgrace, and I felt very sick for a few days after this. But explain it. I'm okay with my girlfriend having sex with other men. I'm not okay with that she, what was it? That she skips condoms. So I read this article. This is a prime example of what this title of this episode is, Man Up. This guy pretty much doesn't respect himself.
Why don't I introduce Zachary to the viewers as far as his self description of him?
Yes, you do that.
I'm Zachary Zane, a sex writer and ethical man whore. A fancy way of saying I sleep with a lot of people, and I'm very, very open about it. Over the years, I've had my fair share of sexual experiences dating and sleeping with hundreds of people of all genders and orientations. In doing so, I've learned a thing or two about navigating issues in the bedroom and a bunch of other places, to be honest. I'm here to answer your most pressing sex questions with thorough, actionable advice that isn't just communicate with your partner, because you know that already. Ask me anything, literally anything, and I will gladly sex-plain it.
What demented little elf made you?
That is Zachary Lane's description of himself.
The problem I don't have. So in the article,
this is real quick. This is like a Dear Abby type thing.
Yeah.
Where
So the problem I have with this, it's not the girlfriend, which I think this is all made up after going to his Twitter account. I don't think he's really dating anyone. I think he is actually gay, which is, if someone's gay, that's cool. That's your thing. But
people, this is somebody writing a letter to him.
Oh, it is?
For advice. Yeah, that's what I meant by Dear Abby.
Oh, okay, got it now.
That's what that column is. It's people writing this train wreck of a human being for advice.
That's my homeschool education right there. But I don't blame the girlfriend at all. She's off the hook. She does her own thing. That's cool. It's the guy. He doesn't have the balls to say, "Look, I don't want this. I don't condone it. I don't. That's just no." And the fact that he allows this to happen means he doesn't have respect for himself. One of the things I always tell guys is, for a man to have a healthy relationship, is he needs to respect himself. And just allowing to be open and I don't care, you can do whatever, you allow a lot of problems to happen, and then it festers in, and then you start blaming the girl for all the problems. It's not the girl's problem, it's you. You allowed this to happen. You could have said, like, look, no, we're not going to do this. Okay, she probably would have been like, all right, cool, I respect you. She has no respect for him. She sees him as just, this guy who will buy my dinners and buy me all these things, but you know what? I'm going to go for a man. And it's, you know what? Good riddance. I blasted out this guy who wrote this whole entire article on Twitter. I don't know exactly what I said, but I was pretty disgusted. And I know Gary Ambrosia was, and I don't know what you guys feel about this.
Why don't I read the letter asking about the problem?
Well, you don't have to, because it's such a long ass article, and I just want to get what your thoughts are on this. If you guys are like, hey, I don't care, she can do whatever she wants. Cool.
It's a paragraph. It's just asking the question to that Zachary Lane guy. If you want.
Okay, if it's just that paragraph, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's just Q&A where people are sending questions to this guy for sex advice. Here's the letter. It says, "Dear Sexplanet, my girlfriend and I are in an open relationship. We're fluid bonded, meaning that we have sex without a condom. When we have sex with others, we always have sex with condoms. A few times now, she's told me she's had sex without a condom with another partner. Each time she apologized profusely, and I forgave her. Although, admittedly, I grew more frustrated each time she told me. Well, we just got the news that she contracted genital herpes. I'm torn between supporting her and feeling frustrated that she broke out clear rules of our relationship. What do I do?" And here's the response to that, the advice. Mother once told me, this is Zachary Lane's advice to this gentleman. My mother once told me that being an adult is knowing how to embrace dissonant feelings. You can be furious at your girlfriend for repeatedly breaking your trust while also supporting her through her recent diagnosis, especially given the way our society still, this is my favorite part, the way our society still stigmatizes herpes and other total common STIs, STDs. I don't want to belabor this too much because it seems as if you already know, but genital herpes isn't the end of the world. If she has frequent outbreaks, she can take daily suppressive therapy, which significantly reduces the chance of spreading the virus, according to the CDC. And we all know how, the CDC, if there's any organization that's incredibly accurate in regards to information and science and up to date, it's definitely the CDC.
They're so accurate.
And then for those of you watching, such as PD, for more info on living with herpes, head to the CDC General Herpes fact page. Just you might want to Google that.
What are your guys' take on this kind of situation where you're with a girlfriend or even wife or whoever you're okay? You're like, what is your whole take of it?
I got nothing.
I'm just going to let Jeff take this for now.
What? My God, dude. I mean, are you going to let someone pee in your Cheerios and gleefully eat it up?
I think he's going to let somebody do something similar as far as fill his girl up and then eat it up.
It's like someone's pissed in my soup.
Whatever you do, Jeff, don't Google felching. Just do not Google felching.
I don't. How? Now, I actually know people who have been in open relationships. And I know people who are forthright and honest about it. And they seem to be okay for a small window of time. It usually 18 to 24 and usually involves one of the females debating on whether or not she's gay, bi, or straight. But as a dude, as a man, why Are you letting someone else play with your toys?
Territoriality is a good thing. And
We learned it too.
Well, here's the other thing, Jeff, too, that my experience too, like that it's not nice to say out loud. Women like to be fought over. Women like to know some guy is making laying a claim to you. Now, and not being abusive, not being like, controlling, things like that. But to let them know that you mean enough to them that like now, if she has enough respect for you, she's not going to put you in that situation. Now, my problem with open relationships has always been this, and I've known people that have done this. If you can't get away from like the 7 deadly sins kind of thing, there's going to be sloth, gluttony, and jealousy. If you really care about someone, and you're going to be very jealous if they're with someone else. If you don't care and you're only concerned about like, oh, well, they do that, I get to go do whatever I want. And you really don't care about your only concern is about yourself and getting whatever. The whole thing is that all this stuff, like this guy's bio and whatnot, I've had sex with all these, blah blah blah. No, you've had meaningless sex over and over again, and you're looking for another dopamine hit. You're not looking for like something more fulfilling that is hard work. You're not looking for something that's going to be, a little bit harder won. If I just say this to young people all the time, like, if there's a girl and she's talking to you and some other guy, get out, because like what that's saying is she's looking, she hasn't found something. You're not the guy. Get over your ego, leave, go find somebody who does want you. Make yourself somebody wants. Make yourself into somebody's actually going to want to be with. And if you can check some boxes. Here's some things that make me a good guy, a good catch. Then if they come along and say like, well, I ignored all that. Like, good, keep looking, find somebody who's going to fit that box. Now, this all comes down to self-respect. Do you deserve someone who's going to be honest with you? Now, like right there, like, well, the first time she did this. No, the first time should have been the last time. Okay? Let's say you wanted to do this, like, what all you know right now is this person lies to you. That's the only thing that you know for certain, is this person lies to you. They don't respect you, because if they did, they wouldn't have violated those rules that you set down. But more importantly, it shows you how ridiculous those rules really are. It's one of those things where, like, you tell yourself in the heat of the moment, this is going to be really great. And then afterwards, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. It was like, you talk yourself into these things and you're like, ooh. And this is another thing that, like, that it's okay and it's necessary to have your boundaries. You have to have boundaries. And if you don't look at yourself to be like, and people can argue like, well, if two people decide this, like, there's other issues in your relationship that should probably be resolved, because inviting other people in, it's like, sorry, ladies, to men, women are a headache. Might be a headache we love, but you're a headache. Why would you want 2 headaches? Why would you want 2? Do you think that, like, if you switch from this one to this one, you're not going to have the same issues at some point? They might be a little bit different, but they're still going to be the same issues. Like, so when you add more people into the situation, you muddy things, and you never get down to actually resolving something with somebody. You don't take that one person, work through things, and try and, like, as best you can. There'll be times when
if you go around having sex, meaningless sex with a bunch of different people of genders and orientations, things are definitely going to get muddy.
Well, exactly, because like what you've done is you've gone out looking for something, you obviously haven't found it yet. and you're not going to find it. You're not. It's like it's everything we do now. It's like everything's cheap and easy. Everything's like this quick little dopamine hit. There's nothing that people want to do that's worthwhile, and it takes time to build. They want the easy way out. They want the pill. They want the quick fix. This girl comes home and like, oh, guess what? I got herpes. Like, well, you know what? Good luck with that. You did this to yourself, and you're not going to do it to me, because chances are that you're not going to be with her if she's trying on different shoes and she doesn't like the shoes that she's got at home. You only go shoe shopping when you want new shoes. Well, sooner or later she's going to leave you. Now you have to contend with the next girlfriend you get that, maybe she doesn't want to have herpes. Maybe she doesn't want to take that chance. And what right do you have to suggest that somebody else should have to deal with that baggage because you wouldn't deal with the situation you were in? You can make up all these ideas in your head that things are going to be wonderful and they're going to work out. Like, they're not. It's really not. And you know it's not going to work out. You might lie to yourself all you want, but in the end, it's really not going to work. Because if it did, it would be mainstream.
How does it even get to this point, right, Andy? How does it even get to how does it even get to, like, this used to be called cheating back in the day, but in my relationships, it's like, oh, you want to go out with your girlfriends or this and that? Okay, I'll take care of dinner. I'll go, and then you go to the club. I'll go there and I'll bring a friend along to make sure you and your girlfriends are safe and that everything's taken care of. The second that you're dating a woman, she wants to go do social things, like besides like shopping with her girlfriend or go getting your hair, nails done, stuff like that, normal stuff comparable to like a man. Hey, hon, I'm going to go catch a ball game or I'm going to go play a sport. It's like, yeah, she's not going to watch you play your softball game or bullshit like that. Like, it's just like hobby stuff. It's like if your woman starts going, oh, I'm going to go to the club. I'm going to go out to the club to go dancing with my girls every week and you're not invited. It's like, well, she's looking for other men. You got to be able to recognize the red flags. And if a woman, or a man, if they want to have an open relationship, that means that they want the cake and eat it too. Literally, they don't want to have any commitment or any responsibility as far as that is entailed in a serious relationship.
Right.
It should never, like, the fact that this is an article in a workout or a fitness magazine or Men's Health, it's insanity to me, and it just shows how far down this country has fallen.
Well, you're trying to convince people of something that they know isn't true.
The stigma of herpes, the stigma, as if you just accidentally just trip on the sidewalk and fall into herpes and catch it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's yeah. I lived through the whole AIDS epidemic, and there were guys like Dr. Fauci who back then was saying, in fact, and it was Dr. Fauci who was saying that this is going to be this incredible epidemic and it's going to spread through the heterosexual community, and guess what never happened.
Funny how history repeats itself. I wonder how the AIDS virus came about to begin with. Anyways,
well,
I'm curious. I might have to look that up in regards to Dr. Fauci.
Well, the thing is that when things are normal for a reason, okay? A child gets here through a man and a woman, okay? And they need that exposure to men and women. And I have a friend of mine who he was kind of like, he had his son, everything was great. He's got his daughter, he has no idea how to relate to her. And I said to him, like, listen, you got to knuckle down with this a little bit better, because if you're not paying attention to her, sooner or later, she's going to be looking for that attention that she should have gotten from you. And it might be some dirtbag guy that's going to give that attention to her. You don't want that. So you need to think about this stuff. Just because you're having a hard time relating doesn't mean you abdicate that responsibility. And it's nature, right? It's like, it's natural for these things to happen. It's like, and you have to make a commitment to be there for that kid. You two chose to do that thing that made that kid. 99.9% of the time, you two chose to do that. So now it's your responsibility. Oh, I didn't like that. Too bad. Too bad. Well, I didn't want to get herpes. Too bad you got herpes. It's like, you made the decision, now live with it. But don't expect somebody else to have to live with that situation if they didn't know. And this is the problem that you have with it. It's like you're trying to use these articles to convince kids who don't know any better that, oh, it's fine. Everything's like, we went through this in the 70s. In the 60s and 70s, late 60s, early 70s, with all the free love and stuff like that, you had like a Woodstock. I had an English teacher who, in high school, Mr. Fiend, he was at Woodstock. And he said, like, you saw so many freaking drug-addled orgies there. It was pathetic. But guess what happened? Those people didn't continue to live those lives. They settled down. They found somebody. They got married. They raised a family, things like that. That's natural. That's what happens. Until you go and like you become a different species or something like that, those kids that you bring into this world need an environment for a long time to grow up healthy and as best you can. Now, it doesn't mean that you stay in toxic relationships, and it doesn't mean that you tolerate everything and stuff like that. You work with it as best you can. And if there's no way out, then you deal with that. But the ideal, and this is what we're talking about, is the ideal. This article is trying to convince people that stuff, it doesn't have to be that way. No, you can have, why can't a kid have all these different, parents and stuff like that? Why can't, and I'll tell you why. Because as a guy that's got kids, one of your kids is going to go up to you, and your kids become experts on knowing your parents. They know exactly how to press their buttons. They're going to go up to the one parent is going to give them the best answer in that situation. They're going to go up to, did you ask your mother? No. Go ask your mother. I knew you were going to say that. Okay. There's some things that mom's going to answer that like, oh my God, don't do that. That's dangerous. I'm going to be like, all right, let's try it. Like, so, you can't get away from nature. Ultimately, nature will reclaim itself. And that's what's going to happen with this unnatural situation. Because people are looking for something, and they're looking for meaning. People are always looking for meaning. And you're not going to find it in cheap, easy things. You're not going to find it in cheap, meaningless sex. You're not going to find it like, look, I didn't live the most wholesome life. The things I talk about from experience. It's meaningless. And at the end of the day, you're going to be like, yeah, that wasn't my best moment. You're going to look back at things and like, yeah, I probably should have done that differently. You can tell people this, and they probably won't listen. But it's not going to, that's meaningless. And you're not going to find happiness in it. Happiness and fun are two totally different things. Going there and hooking up with all these girls might be fun. But what happens if, like, at some point, okay, you're going out and hooking up with all these different girls and whatnot. And then you find one that you really like. You find one who's like, maybe she's got some higher standards. Maybe she's like, a little more picky about like, who she's with and stuff like that. And she doesn't know you, and she gets talking to you, and then all of a sudden, like, she talks to one of her, oh, that guy, oh yeah, I remember him. I hooked up with him, and then he hooked up with this one, like, oh yeah, he was a real jerk. And like, then all of a sudden, like, they go back to the girl that you really like, and then she finds out that you've got like, this track record, and like, and she's looking at you kind of disgusted because it's not what she wants. And people are going to want to tell her, well, oh, you're just being judgmental. Screw you. She has every right to be judgmental. Every right. You get to choose who you're with and who you're not with. And it should be somebody, like Steve said, somebody that respects you, but first you have to respect yourself. And you don't deserve sloppy seconds. And you don't give somebody sloppy seconds. So that's where your answer is to that article. They're trying to convince people that unnatural things are perfectly natural, that it's going to work out. I know it hasn't worked out. Like, do you think that human beings have been on this planet for about 200,000 years? Do you think that there's anything new that somebody hasn't tried yet? Do you think that there's something like, cosmetic surgery? I could go get my nose fixed. It could have this nice, pretty exterior and stuff like that. Not all these jagged bumps and pushed off to the side and stuff like that, and stuffy most of the time. But on the inside, there's still a whole bunch of scar tissue. You could make it look like it didn't happen, but it did. Like, check the Carfax. It's like, oh, my look at Madonna. Madonna. It's like, you look at Madonna, you look at all the people that have been with her. You have one thing really that you can offer to only one person that nobody else can get, so that can be exclusive to them. One thing.
Donna looks like a real life garbage pail kid now.
Yeah, she's like, she looks like one of those like alien abduction cases, and they swap the body out.
She's a dude disguised as another dude. But
like a body found in a river 3 weeks later, all bloated.
Yeah, it's one of the things that it's in college. I didn't live the perfect life as like being a Christian. I didn't in college. I told my wife before we got married, I was like, you know what? In college, I did a little checkers with God. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do my own thing. And God's like, all right, let's see how this plays out. Whether you are religious or not, that's fine. To me, as a Christian, I've learned, you know what? Like, I had to learn the hard way of what having a relationship was with a woman. And it was really tough. I learned the really hard way that a lot of women, especially living in LA, it was this superficial like idea of like, I want this guy, I want that guy. And I'm being a Southern Midwestern guy, I valued what women wanted, but I got so caught up in doing film and all these things that I became the problem of what society looks at for a guy. And when I met my wife, I was like, you know what? I value you more than I value anything else. I want to work at this. And it comes down to saying no. I always say this to any guy, and I know I said this earlier today, no is the best answer to get because it builds confidence.
Yep.
And when a guy is looking to date a woman and he's like, hey, I really like you, whether that's going to work out or not, if she says, you're not the type of guy that I want to go out with, that's okay. If any guys watching right now, if you get a no from a girl, that's okay. It just means, you know what? Try a little harder. Try a little harder means work on yourself a little bit more and evaluate, like, look, what can I do to better myself, to improve myself as a man, and to make myself look, hey, look, ladies, like, I'm not the crazy, weird nerd, beta, simp, or whatever it is. I want to improve myself so I can better a relationship. I always thought, dating, that takes a lot of work. Planning out a date, planning out all these things. No, that's a cakewalk. Being married is a whole nother. And eventually we'll get into being married in other episodes, but
being married is a date you can't leave.
For guys, some guys, yeah, but it's being married, it's a work, it's a job, and dating is kind of that part-time job at flipping burgers at Burger King or McDonald's or whatever. And it's a training. It trains Dating is just training you for marriage, is how I look at it. And if a guy doesn't respect himself, women can see that really quick. And I still can't tell that at all. But eventually women can tell, like, you know what, this guy doesn't respect himself. Why bother? And when you're in a relationship, especially dating, you're like, you know what, like, we can have an open relationship, yada yada yada. Maybe this is with marriage. Mine's very closed. And it's one, like, especially dating, women don't really, if they're dating a guy who has no respect for himself, they don't care. And I always tell guys, like, you know what, like, when you're dating and a girl doesn't respect you, but you respect yourself, get out of that. Like, you're not tied. You don't sign a contract. You're not tied to anything. Dating is just deciding what type of woman you want to be married to. Like, my wife always told me this before we got married. She said, you know what? Like, divorce is not an option. Doesn't mean I can go out and fail, but it means she's willing to work at it. And I love my wife for that, because she says, you know what? Like, I grew up in a family where it's like, you work at the mistakes you've made. You work at the problems. Like, that's the thing. And not a lot of marriages are like that, but when you get in a situation where you don't care, that means you failed as a man. Like, it's there's no end result. It's like, you know what? You need to be told by other guys, like, you know what? You need to get your you need to get your shit straight, and you need to actually man up and tell your woman, like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be in a relationship where I'm with you. Not this whole, like, well, you can be with anyone you want to be. No, fuck that shit. It's confusing. It's pointless. Like, if you're in a relationship, you're in a relationship. You pick that person to date or marry or whoever, but yeah, that's my whole point. I'm so disgusted by this article that it opens the door for kids younger. I remember when Health Magazine used to be about being working out and being fit. Not this whole, like, oh, you can do this, you can be that. Oh yeah, you can be flamboyant, whatever. Fuck that. It's not the same anymore. And it's I blame the society where it's like, well, you can do this and that. No, be a man. Like,
Well,
pick your
number
shit up.
one, it's abdicating responsibility is the hard thing.
Exactly.
You're abdicating your responsibility. And I real quick, I want to address the thing that Goat had up earlier with the don't respect yourself enough to walk away from something. That's kind of like a little bit deceptive there. Yes, at some point you can walk away from things, and you can, but it seems to be a common theme with this younger generation that is going around now. It's like, when the going gets tough, just walk away. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. And I believe in divorce because I don't believe there should ever be a job you can't be fired from. If you do a shitty ass job as a husband, you deserve to be fired for it. If she does a shitty ass job as a wife, she deserves to be fired for it. It's
Yeah.
like, sometimes you can't help what some people are going to do. You can't help how they're going to behave. You can be the best guy in the world, and somebody, like, she could just, like, whatever, one day she up and leaves. And that's not necessarily anybody's fault. It's a decision that somebody made. Okay, but when you have to take that responsibility a little bit more seriously. That, like, and that's kind of what dating was supposed to be for. You're supposed to be looking for someone that you can spend your life with, that you can make something work with. Don't think it's not going to be hard work. And it's not. There are. I mean, my parents got divorced when I was 18 years old, and it was a very toxic environment growing up like that. I don't know what it would have been like if they had gotten divorced, and because I didn't live that experience. All I can tell you is that it was not a comfortable place to grow up in. But if this is why people should take these things seriously before, and it all comes down to things like this article, which are telling people that there's such a thing as a free ride. There's such a thing that you can get away with something. You don't get away with anything. You don't. It becomes part of your history, it's part of you, and it's going to screw you up at some point. Every time you try to take the shortcut, it's going to screw you up. Do the work. When you commit to something, work at it. Doesn't mean it's going to work out. Doesn't mean it's going to be like, God knows. It's like you get to a point where it can be, there's no going back. You can't save things. But at least you tried.
Exactly.
The worst thing in the world is regret. The worst thing in the world is to sit there and ask yourself, what if? So know that you did everything that you could to make things work. If you get to a point where things are going to get like, where you think you need some kind of like friggin' whacked out thing, hey, let's try an open marriage. You know what? Yeah, you should try that open marriage. It's called open door and get out, because it's not going to end well. It doesn't work. It's sitting there saying like, you know what? If I throw my dog up in the air enough times, the dog will learn how to fly. It won't. And so yeah, that's the thing. Like when you decide to, religious values are, when I was young, I looked at religious values like nobody tells me what to do. Like, it's a flaw in my personality that like as soon as somebody tells me what to do, it's pretty much guaranteed that I'm going to go in the opposite direction. And I sat there and I denied this stuff as long as I could, like doing what I wanted, doing what I wanted. Till one day I realized like, my life was screwed up. And I spent most of my life pretty agnostic. I walked out in my front yard and I dropped down on my knees. I looked up at the sky and I said, I don't know if you're up there, but this isn't working. Like every time, I'm a pretty smart guy. Every time I think things out, make a decision, it never works out. Tell you what, you drive. You tell me where to go, I'll go there, you drive. And ever since then, things have certainly changed, because the rules aren't there because somebody said so. Your mom and dad don't tell you to not touch the stove because they said don't touch the stove. They tell you don't touch the stove because they love you and they don't want you to burn your hand. And you're sitting there saying, won't burn my hand, won't burn my hand. And you touch the stove and all of a sudden you're crying because you burned your hand. Well, it's not rocket science with everything else. It's the same thing. If you have to talk yourself into something, and it's not going to work. You got to talk yourself into an open relationship. It's not going to work. Sooner or later, somebody's going to get jealous. Sooner or later, somebody's going to get their feelings hurt. And what do? That's what you have to think about, because we like to think that like the world is this like nice, consistent thing, goes along in like a nice, steady course. Whose life has ever gone on a nice, steady course? Whose life has ever gone in a straight line? Nobody's. So, yeah.
Well, I always try to tell people, especially guys, like if you want to date someone, you need to focus on yourself a little bit more. And I know I said this in the first episode. Women go nuts. And I didn't know this until before I got married, that when you stop thinking about women, when you focus on yourself and focus on your job, your career, something, or whatever it might be, focus on yourself, women notice that a lot more. And that's the little like secret about women that I don't understand very well, which I don't want to know, but they can see that. And we may not notice it right away, but when women notice like, hey, he's not paying attention to me and I'm giving him all the flags possible in this entire world, you know, maybe he is the person who it's worth being with. And I think it was Andy that mentioned that women like to be chased. If once guys figure out themselves and figure out everything and it's stabled and hey, you know what? I'm ready to date. I've evaluated myself. I've pretty much made myself who I want to be. Let's go for it. Women will once you start chasing the women, like they will eat you up because they see that you're really putting effort into them. And it's and I told my wife, like, I always make the joke of, you know, like a lot of women when they get married, they always step up. They take the next level of like, you know what, I'm married to a guy who has a lot of money or who's financially well. I told my wife jokingly the a few months ago, I was like, I pretty much married up on you because my family's poor, and you know what? I like your family's money. But I said that jokingly, and she was like, that's probably true. And because me living more less economically and financially, which isn't a problem, I think when guys live where they're financially not as a lot of money coming in, they learn a lot in that, which we might get into in other episodes. But she understood, like, you know what, you lived in a life where it wasn't as financially stable as I did, but you've learned how to overcome that and you know how to solve problems in that. So if something happens to us when we're married, I know how to solve that. If there's financial situations, like I can go out and work and provide in some way where it's a lot of guys that live in specifically cities that don't understand that. That's the thing. Like when I was in college in LA, a lot of guys who lived in LA, they didn't understand how to survive. And just because you live in a big city and do all these things doesn't really mean diddly squat. It's like, okay, cool. Your parents live in Beverly Hills. You got a 401k. You got money coming out of the yin yang. Doesn't mean jack shit. Because I think that if women, they value money a lot, but when they see a guy who really puts effort into something, that's like, you know what, I will work for this shit even if it kills me. Like I told my wife, like, you know what, I'm probably gonna die before you do, but that's because I'm really working for you. I'm working to provide for you. I want to get you a house that you like. I want to do everything possible because I value and I love you very much. And yeah, right? It's a sacrifice. It's like Willie Wallace. But I think that a lot of guys don't understand that, and that's because a lot of men, older guys, aren't willing to put up the effort of like, you know what? I want to teach. I want to explain things to younger guys and the younger generation, especially the Generation Z, that life is not easy. It's gonna knock you down, and the only way to get back up is just to pick yourself up. It's it, it's one of those things where if you're willing to be like, you know what, I'm comfortable, I'm in a relationship, and I don't care what she does. That's not someone you should be with. And the same thing goes with women. If women are not going to respect themselves and be like, you know what, I don't care who you're with, I just care about your money. Just at that situation, if you're dating, just walk away. It's if a guy is making money, is banking in a lot of money, and he's really working for that for his future, and a woman's just using him for the money, just get the fuck out. Like it's not worth it because it's women. Those women don't value you. I think if a guy meets a woman who really values and really appreciates what the guy has to offer, work at it, keep her. Just do whatever you can to like work at it because she's gonna do something that's really cool that's just gonna knock your socks off and make you want to stay. So that's what I gotta say about that. This whole arc is just fucking stupid. That's all I gotta say.
Well, the article is endemic of what we're going through as a culture. It's like you're trying to convince people of a lie. You're trying to teach them of something that it's satanic. It's like it's trying to convince you of a lie that is not going to work. And it's telling you that you're going to be happy if you do these things, but you're not. And that happens time and time again. And the things that are going to give you real meaning in your life are going to be the hard things. It's going to be like, Steve, you brought up earlier about like a lot of these movie stars taking steroids. If you go into the gym and you work out and you work hard, you get results that mean something because you know that you didn't get them out of a needle or a pill bottle. You worked for it and you earned it. You know, you look at something like some construction piece that you did or that you built, or whatever your thing is, like that, that you work at. I feel when I teach somebody something and they finally get it and they finally understand how to do it, that gives me a sense of satisfaction. I help somebody accomplish something for themselves. When I build something, when I create art or something like that, and someone else appreciates it, that gives me. But it's hard-won satisfaction. It's years and years of practice and study to do these things. So it's earned. If you get anything that you haven't earned, you will not appreciate it. You will not have any kind of value to it. And that's what this popular culture is not. We see it every day on screen in these franchises they've destroyed. The hero doesn't have to earn anything, it's just given to them. It's like, here's the reality check that people like, they want you fighting amongst themselves. No one in life has it easy. No one in life has an easy time of anything. Everything is relative according to their experience and their issues that they have. There's nobody you can walk around and say like, oh, this one has privilege and stuff like that. Yeah, you know what? Somewhere out there's a guy whose dad owned 10 Mercedes-Benz things, and you got all the money and food that you could ever possibly want. But you have your issues, and it probably has a lot to do with the world that you live in and the judgmental people you're surrounded with. You don't have to worry about where your food's going to come from. Then you got somebody else who's starving and they have to worry about where their food's coming from. But guess what? They don't care what their friends are thinking about them because everybody's too busy trying to eat. Which one has it worse? One person is actually dealing with real world problems. The other person's dealing with things that they made up. And everybody has it hard. Everybody is working through crap. To be so narcissistic that you look around and think that you're the focal point of somebody else's life, that they exist just to make your life a little harder. Check yourself. Get out of your own way, get your head out of your ass, and start looking around and finding something you need to overcome. Find something you can earn. Find something you can work for. And a lot of times that'll be a relationship. This jackass here who's, I don't want to brag, but, I've had a lot of sex. Yeah, great. What have you accomplished? What have you accomplished? You've been around with a bunch of people that are just as shallow and meaningless as you. That's something to be valued. If you look around and your life is like going from one spot to another, what value do you have? Value yourself. Pride yourself a little bit more on that. Don't, it's like pride in appearance, pride in yourself with, you make the best of what you have. I want to look neat. I want to look clean. I want to have I don't want to think about this, right? Things like toothpaste and deodorant are for other people. They're not for us. You fix the way that you smell so that other people you're not inflicting that on them. You're not walking in there and making them try to tolerate your stench. You brush your teeth. Like, you could put baking soda on a toothbrush with some water and clean your teeth, but it's probably not going to get rid of the morning breath. You want that nice mini taste, so when you go talk to somebody, they don't like drop dead in front of you because, like, your breath smells like an armpit. We do these things because we're taking some pride in ourselves. We're doing these things because we want to, be a little bit better. And that's really what it comes down to. You have a part of society that's telling you to be an animal. There's part of society that's telling you, don't try. Just be how you are. It's natural. It's like, it's perfectly fine like that. No, it's not. You have to learn how to fight your nature. Every day is a struggle to fight your nature. Men have to fight their nature because men are biologically wired for variety. Men have no way of knowing outside, like up until the DNA test, no way of knowing if that kid was actually theirs. A woman knows where that kid came from because they were there when the kid popped out. The man is kind of like, taking it on faith that it's like, just talking caveman mentality here. It's just the way it is. Men are programmed for variety. Now, you have to fight your nature. You are going to limit yourself to just one out of all this. And women can't understand men's sexual nature. It's completely foreign to them. Women can't understand that, like if a guy looks at another woman, it doesn't mean that he loves you less. It's just you're biologically programmed to look at a woman. We are visually stimulated. The proof is pornography. Okay, there's plenty of porn sites out there that feature naked men. Women don't look at them. Men do. Gay men look at those sites. Women don't do that. It's like men do. Yeah, you have to explain to a woman that, like, that, it's like being constantly hungry, very, very hungry, and you're surrounded by the most delicious food in the world, but you can't touch it.
Andy, can you share with the chat the names of these sites so that the viewers can avoid them?
Bros.
It's so and so. Like, okay, so you mentioned Andy mentioned about the whole bragging right thing. When I think it was the Q&A, the guy who wrote the question about I've hooked up with hundreds of women. Here's the thing. The thing that I've learned is women don't care. Like, it's a bragging right. Like, especially with guys, when you're saying, like, oh, I hooked up with hundreds of women. Well, first off, if you really think about that, if a guy
hundreds of women and different genders and orientation, everything. So it wasn't just women.
It's 2022, almost 2023. Let's put the spectrum of 700 genders. It's fucking crazy. But if you say I hooked up with 100 women or people, whatever.
It's they thems.
They, thems, it's z, zoo, whoever. I don't want to get into pronouns.
Ray and Tard.
But yeah, if you think about that whole number, 100, that's fucking insane. Because that's saying it's like if a guy said, you know what, I hooked up with hundreds of people. Hundreds could be like 200, 150, whatever. If you just say, let's say 50 people that you hooked up with, like that number right there, if I was, let's say I'm a woman and I hear a guy I'm dating with and he
that just makes perfect, Steve.
Yeah, I know, right? He says, I hooked up with 50 people. That makes me say, you know what? I don't want anything to do with that because that means you don't you don't respect yourself.
And you can't control yourself.
Right. It's like, how am I going to trust you? The same thing with women. Like, I've heard this whole thing. Like, if, I think Jordan Peterson, a few other people have mentioned this. Like, if a woman, like, the difference between men and women is if a woman goes out and hooks up with multiple, like, let's say 50 people, a guy's going to be like, that's kind of hoish of you. That's a little slutty of you. But the other thing, and I know a lot of people are like, well, that's hypocritical, Steve. Like, why would you ever say this?
It is a double standard, but it's true.
It is. The thing
It goes back to being biological too, though.
but the thing about being a guy is like we're built genetically to reproduce. That's kind of somewhat in us. So like when a guy says I hooked up with 50 women, like okay, but to a woman it's like, well, can I trust you?
Oh, there's another factor in there too, Steve. Like if a woman, for a guy to hook up with 50 women, he's got to be pretty friggin' charming. You have to win that woman. You have to.
He's got to be the Henry Cavill of them all.
Right. Or you have to be suave enough that you can you can talk your way and charm that into happening. A woman just has to say yes. You don't have to work for it. Like men have to work for it. This is like as what you see on these dating apps with Tinder. It's like it's all it is. Like Tinder's out there, and this is a problem I have with them calling men incels, because there are plenty of guys out there that would like to have a date with a girl. They go on these Tinder apps and stuff like that, and what they're doing is they're picking this top segment of men that they're all chasing after, and those men are just having a field day. They're not committing to anybody. They're having a field day, and all these women are just like getting in notches in the six gun here. And meanwhile, all those women are getting their notches in their six gun. And then you have a bunch of decent guys out there that aren't meeting up to the criteria. I went with some friends of mine. We went out to a bar, and a couple of the guys were talking about like the dating apps and stuff like that. And the one guy's 5'6", and the other guy's 5'5". And they said, yeah, like if you don't put 6 foot on there, they don't want anything to do with you. And like the one guy, he said like he put on there that he's the 5'6" guy, so like, I'm almost 6 foot. So he shows up at this date, and the girl says, "You're not almost 6 foot," and he says, "And you're not athletically built." So it's like there's your double standard. But for the man, you have to actually win those women over. The women are making the choices. The women are deciding which way to swipe. You're just putting it out there. It's like it's not like the men aren't going out there and saying and having a harem and saying, "You come with me." The women decide that. So for a woman to have 50 partners is much different than for a man to have 50 partners. Still tacky.
I think you brought up a great point, Andy, and we're kind of running overtime here. But I think that dating in the modern age, with the how it's changed from traditional dating to internet dating, or however hookup culture, I think could be a good topic, because that's a lot of the young men are facing today, and they have to figure out how to steer that ship and how to avoid red flags, with these women on these sites. I mean, there's all different types of dating sites, from Tinder, which is a hookup site, to Bumble, to Farmers' Daughters, and so forth. But Christian Mingle, or I think that's where Steve found his lovely bride. But all jokes aside, I think that would be an excellent topic for a future show where we could have more time to spend on it, to kind of learn how to monitor, to steer through the modern dating scene, because it's pretty crazy.
Well, that's what I mean.
It used to be. It used to be if you've told a woman you're gonna go over to a stranger's place or invited strangers over, and the only thing that you know about them is a paragraph you read on their profile on the internet, it would look at you like you're insane. Like most of the time when I went out on dates, let's say going back to high school and stuff, I went to the girl's house, introduced myself to the parents, and took her out on a date. That's just what you did. And to see the links it's gone to in the dating field, and experienced it myself in recent years, it's just it's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. But one thing I've noticed, most of these women are miserable because men and women are wired differently. A guy could hook up with 50 to 100 girls, not think twice about it, not think about it the next day. Or when women hook up with a lot of guys, it really has a negative impact on their mental health. I've noticed that, and I know that there's science backing that up.
Well,
And it's just one of
will
those things we're
say
wired differently.
that, like, for men, it doesn't hit you right away, but eventually it hits you. And eventually you look back at your life and you say, man, I'm kind of ashamed at my behavior. And again, I'm talking from experience. You look back and you're like, man, I'm kind of embarrassed about those things that I did. And like there's a point where you're like, you're high-fiving your friends and you're telling these war stories and stuff like that. But then after a while, like especially once you have kids and you think to yourself like, well, what would I want my kids to know or not know about me? And you're like, that's when you're like, ooh, you know what? I probably shouldn't tell them about that time when, I whatever. And yeah, so it does eventually catch up to you. We eventually get past that point where but again, it's fighting our nature. Nature says to you, I want to eat the whole dish of brownies or the whole pizza. Fighting your nature says, no, it's going to make me fat. It's going to hurt me. It's like, if I drink too much, if I that your nature, your biology says you want to do these things, but you have to control it. Jordan Peterson says this when he talks about like a weak man is not a good man. A good man is a very dangerous man who keeps himself under control. Well, that control is not behaving like an animal. That control is a conscientious decision about not caving into my base needs and base desires. That's what I mean by fighting your nature. And that's what I think what Steve was saying too. It's like, ultimately, male or female, if you're hooking up with 50 different people, you should probably look into yourself, because it's not like I remember one time, this one place I was working, it was a supermarket, and I'm working the night shift, and I had been college classes all day, so I go over to the bakery department where the big coffee machine was, and I walked up there, and I hear the two girls working in the bakery having this conversation as I'm getting my coffee, and one girl says, Mayor, I don't understand it. We go out and I meet all these nice guys, but they never call me. And the other girl says, well, if you wouldn't blow them out in the parking lot, maybe they would. Words of wisdom.
Yeah. One of the things, so when it comes to dating, especially with women, they always want a guy who's like close to 6 foot. And I get it. It's like that whole persona. But being a guy who I always thought
They
was
want
like,
someone that can change the light bulb, Steve.
I know I need about a couple step ladders and I'm good to go. But it's being a guy who's 5'4", it's really hard. And I know there's guys who are like, if they're short, like, well, I don't know if I'm not the perfect height for the woman. I'm like, you just got to show confidence. Is how the whole.
You just tell them you're 6 foot laying down.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the other thing is a lot of women do this. I've done the whole dating app thing, and a lot of women do this whole camera angle bullshit thing where there's like camera angle and they don't show their full body. Guys don't like if
I do the same thing, but for dick pics.
I know it takes about 100 shots for a dick pic, and then it's like, finally, there you go, take it.
Gotta get the lighting just right.
I know, right? No, I always thought there's a bunch of women like, oh, they'll actually like say like, yeah, I got a dick pic. And I was like, you do know it took like 20 shots to get that one just right. Like, fluff it out just right. But I always tell women, I was like, you know what? If you want to find a guy who's genuinely good for you, just know like you're not gonna get a guy who
Learn how to cook.
Oh yeah, dude. It's like just who isn't 6'3" or whatever size, like big, like Superman.
Hey, easy there, easy. I'm 6'3".
But
Easy.
but who's like height? I always tell women don't focus on height, and I always tell guys like don't focus on your height. Like I understand women are focusing on that, but they'll focus on a lot more things than just your height.
Well, it's about not being superficial. Okay.
Exactly.
it's the same thing. Now, when I first met my wife, she was 265 pounds. And the first thing she did for me was to hook me up with this really hot girl who happened to be a cocaine addict. So after that girl left with 800 of my favorite dollars, I was like, pfft. Meanwhile, like, this woman, like, kept, like, losing a ton of weight, like, over the course of next year, lost over 100 pounds and was like, and all for the idea of like landing me because I was just too, I was going through a lot with like, parents had just died, all this stuff. So it was like, um, you would not believe the amount of women that looked at my wife and said, God, what are you doing with her? You could do so much better than her. What they're really saying is like, why aren't you with me? And I'm like, oh, well, what makes you think that you're better than, I thought women were supposed to be like, why are men so shallow and superficial? And here was this guy, like, me, like, doing this thing, like, and, all right, she wasn't like, you know, the, the poster girl and stuff like that. And, well, why are you with her? Like, well, I thought we were supposed to be like, going with people because of who they are, not like that. And one of the things that, like, that was about her at the time, like, she would, walks into the store with this giant bag of toys and just dumps this entire bag. It was probably about, this is 1988, about $60, which is probably about $150 now, of toys just in the Toys for Tots bin. That was like, but it's a superficiality. It's like, we all want to say it's like, well, the other person's superficial, but not me. I'm a good person. Like, that other person over there, they're superficial and shallow, but not me. Like, oh, by the way, why are you with a guy that's that short? Why are you with a girl whose waist isn't this small? And but that's the thing. It's always like it's like, people talk about people being greedy. It's like, like, oh, those people are poor. Like, well, why is it greedy for me want to keep the money I've earned? But it's not greedy for somebody else to want to take my money and give it to somebody else that hasn't earned it. It's that perspective and that double standard kind of thing. So yeah, like, women can be every bit as shallow and superficial as men, and men will look at a girl and be like, and yes, it happens. They'll look at them like, it's kind of like, but I will say that, like, if you look at an old couple, and like, you wrap up here, look at an old couple. There's no such thing as a good-looking 75-year-old. You can look good for 75, but you're not good-looking. Your things droop, sag, wrinkles, things like that, and you're nowhere near as attractive as you were. You watch that couple look into each other's eyes, and you watch that man look at his wife and still finds her beautiful. That is your ideal. That's what you should be looking for. Anything else shouldn't be acceptable to you. Anything else should be, it's like buying the cheap imitation. It's like, you go out for somebody tells you they're going to take you out for a nice Mexican dinner and they take you to Taco Bell. Nah, you know what? Probably should rethink that.
At Taco Bell, it'd be like $3 for two people.
Yeah, it's true. And after a late night of drinking, it's a great thing, but eventually it catches up with you too.
All right. On that note, let's go around the table. You guys can plug in anything you guys want. Andy, anything you want to plug in?
No, I'm good. I was happy to see that the little boy got his YouTube channel back. That was a good thing.
Oh, he did? Awesome.
Yeah, I heard about that. I was happy when they did that. Just because he's not here, he had to go, I believe, due to weather. Let me see where it was here. We had Jeff, otherwise known as the Lost Wanderer, at Stoner Brewing Co. on Twitter. He says next week, Friday the 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern at klrnradio.com. They will have a live radio play of It's a Wonderful Life. Jeff, thanks for coming on the show. So if anybody wants to check out what Jeff is doing next week, that's what you can check out next week.
Talcum, anything you want to plug in?
No, I'm good.
All right. Goat, anything you want to plug in?
Actually, yeah, why the heck not? I mean, we are starting to get people that are in kind of the same circle. So anybody in the chat or otherwise that knows anybody in this particular kind of circle, if you're looking to have like your own personal decals for anything, just kind of contact me, see what you want, what we can work out, or if you know any content creators that kind of want their own store and their own stuff, just shoot me a message on Twitter at the Goatfather PR.
And you can, of course, this channel or Twitter, YouTube. Wow, Twitter. You can find me at Rancor Steve. Next week we won't have an episode just because I have family coming in, and it's just gonna be a really crazy week for me. And I was planning on it, but I was like, it's just might as well just do it tonight. The 29th, we're gonna do a New Year's Eve special. Just laughs, humor, just who knows? I might have special guests. You never know who's gonna pop up. So join us for that. Again, I will say this. The GOAT makes really good decals. I know I posted a couple pictures of that. He does really good decals. Definitely find him on Twitter, talk to him, see what he can do. He is a master, not just as a producer, but as a creative person with decals. He is great at it. I just want to say thank you to everyone in the panel, even Jeff, who, with the weather conditions in New England, thank you for being on the show. I am so glad to see Andy and Talcum and the GOAT on this show. I just want to say this one thing. SP4H, dude, you are awesome as a wrench. And the GOAT, this show could not have been made without you guys. I thank you very much. This is such a passionate thing about me. I know a lot of you guys see me on Pop Culture Breakdown with Andy and Gary, and this is the one show that I'm more passionate about than anything else. I don't give a shit what movies make money or anything. It's all just make believe. But this show is very much a passion for me, and I really want to get guys to become men and dedicated to being men. It doesn't matter even if you're a man who's single for his entire life. As long as you're a man, that's what matters. And this episode has been probably the best for me, and I learned a lot from Andy. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for all the people in the chat for just chiming in and just talking. I know we tend to mention people in the chat on the show, but I've been watching you guys' comments in the chat. Dude, you guys are awesome. I thank you very much. And Gary, if you're watching right now, you're more than welcome to jump in anytime. Probably right now, not right now, because it'd be the end of the show.
I'd hate for Gary to jump in and then just be like, right when we're hitting the end button,
All right, Gary, we ran out of time, man. Maybe next week.
Gary, pop in and we just cut off.
Sometime next month, Talcum and I are going to be in the background. We're going to be playing Battleship against each other to keep things interesting.
Wait, say that again?
We're going to be playing Battleship.
like the physical one or like a digital one?
Yeah, G17.
Sweet, man. I got no problem with that. That's pretty cool.
But we'll have a show back. We'll be back on the 29th for the New Year's Eve. I'll try to get some special guests on the show, and I hope to see you guys then. You guys have a great Christmas, great weekend, and we'll see you guys right before New Year's Eve. You guys have a good weekend.
All right, everybody. Travel safe. Good night.